Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. Great announcer, sports announcer, broadcaster Kenny Albert's with us. Anything you want to plug, though? Is something you do on a regular basis you want to plug? Or
well, right
coming
now,
up?
Involved in Rangers hockey. Just came from the Garden. They lost in a shootout. It was a real exciting game. The crowd was into it. It was one of the more exciting games of the season.
Still
they lost
a fun
4-3.
place to see a Ranger home game at the Garden.
Yeah,
great.
it's the best. So Rangers hockey, I'll be involved in the Olympics for NBC, actually, doing hockey in Sochi, Russia next month.
Right.
So that's coming up soon. And then, of course, with Fox football, we just completed 20 years, which I can't even believe.
Wow.
Crazy. I remember Joe Buck and a couple of the other young guys and I were out in 1994.
20 years, man.
For the auditions when Fox first got football away from CBS, and it's 20 years later. And then I'll do some baseball for Fox again in the summer.
Now, did you and Joe have a kinship being sons of legendary guys where you sort of said to each other, look, we got to, in a way, you got to perform better. There's pressure to do better than the other guys.
It's funny. We don't see each other a lot. And Tom Brenneman as well.
Right.
His father is Marty Brenneman, the Hall of Fame Cincinnati Reds broadcaster. We were all part of that first Fox group in '94. They wanted to hire some of the veterans from CBS, Pat Summerall and John Madden, Dick Stockton and Matt Millen.
It was a publicity blitz, because I was on Mad TV at the time, and I did a couple of promos, which were fun to do for free. But I worked for David Hill, and those legendary sports guys. And what a fun, exciting time to be there.
Oh, it was. It was amazing. So they brought us all in, and we all got hired, and we did feel a bit of a kinship. We only see each other once or twice a year at seminars, Fox seminars in the summer, but I think we all grew up with similar experiences, and back in those early years, we would talk about it and share some anecdotes.
Right. Now, you just said your father is going on Letterman. Your father, by the way, it shows how great a sense of humor he had. He's in a legendary SNL sketch from the first or second season where Belushi plays an Olympic athlete.
That's right. And
you could tell they just said, maybe we could have Dan Aykroyd play the announcer, but we got to get Marv Albert. You could tell Lorne Michaels was like, we got to get Marv Albert. Like, it's a home run, a grand slam. It's a home run with Dan Aykroyd. It's a grand slam if Marv Albert does it. And he did it, and he nails it out of the park. As Belushi doing, instead of a Wheaties commercial, he eats little chocolate donuts and a cigarette to get ready for What a day for John Belushi. And but you just said your father is doing Letterman. You do Letterman plays of the week or the year or whatever, plays of the month. Always nailed it. And because it was just two witty guys having a conversation, that's not how talk shows are anymore, which kind of sucks. But you said your father just called you for what kind of advice?
Well, he is going on the Letterman show, I think, tomorrow, and he and Dave are pretty close. They've known each other for 20 or 25 years now.
You tell Letterman loves him.
But he did call me yesterday just to check a couple of hockey pronunciations for the Albert Achievement Awards tomorrow night. So a couple of tricky pronunciations. He hasn't been involved in hockey in about 15 years. So
that's amazing that he hasn't
share that info with him.
Right, yeah. Because I don't know, as a what was your thoughts of him as a national guy? Because not growing up, John, in New York, because he was to me he was the Jordan years where Marv Albert too. A spectacular move by Michael Jordan.
No,
is that how you knew him?
Oh, without a doubt. Being, Michael Jordan transcended region.
Everything. Right. Yeah.
So there's a commonality there where you think of one, you think of the voice. You think of the voice that accompanied him. But yeah, big deal. I mean, he was the face that you knew and the voice that you knew.
Right.
And when you ask me about hockey, I think with him it's basketball. Even though he's done football,
he likes it better.
Still does football. Did so much hockey and
he's a hoops
and
guy.
boxing. But growing up, he was playing and calling basketball in the schoolyard in Brooklyn, and then he was a Knicks ball boy actually. In the
that's
50s.
right. I remember that.
Yeah, he was a ball boy with the Knicks. So started his career with the Knicks, and then, like you mentioned, the Jordan years, the NBA on NBC in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I think, not sure he would have admitted it back then, but if you ask him now, he would say basketball.
He would say
basketball was number one.
What's it like working in the booth with Moose?
He's great. 7 years now I've been with
Darryl Johnston,
Moose Johnston, and Tony
Cowboy
Siragusa
fullback, and the great
down
Tony
on the
Siragusa.
sidelines. It's a tremendous crew, and they were together for 3 or 4 years before I joined them. And people don't really understand. Goose is on the field, yet his mic is open. He controls his mic.
And it's a great idea because Tony's so funny. He's a witty guy, and people love him, and he knows the game.
But he's not, your typical sideline reporter. He hates being called a sideline reporter.
Yeah.
He's a sideline analyst.
Now, believe me, whenever you're on with Tony, it's his show.
Right, but a sideline reporter, the producers tells you when to go down for an injury report or a story.
Right.
With Tony, he's analyzing the game. So I actually felt in the early years working with Moose and Goose that I changed my style a little bit as opposed to a two-man booth, and I've worked with some other great analysts Brian Baldinger, who I know that you know well.
The greatest name in the history of sports.
Exactly.
Really
Tim Green, Anthony Munoz I worked with. You know,
former lineman for the Bengals.
Right, some other greats. But
did you ever consider like making your name Loose, like because so it's Loose, Moose, and News? Or
you know,
Loose, Moose, and News?
People ask me through the years, you got to come up with a name that rhymes, but just didn't find anything that fit.
You need OJ for Juice, Moose, and Goose.
There you go, perfect.
So when OJ gets out, would you consider just because of the name
stepping aside?
That would be the most wonderful thing in the history. Listen, guys, I'm going to step aside just because of the name thing. It rhymes, and now it's Juice,
Moose, and Goose. I like that.
Oh my God!
But hopefully, I can stay with those two.
No,
guys.
I think a lot of people would rather have.
But anyway, the chemistry. You know, first of all, that the two of them have, because football, as opposed to basketball or hockey, where the play-by-play guy's calling the play for the most part. You know, there aren't a lot of stoppages. In football, it's pretty much a set formula. It's one play, and then it's 20, 25, 30 seconds. Then it's another play, 25, 30 seconds. So in a two-man booth, I would call the play, and then I would wrap it up at the end of the play. You know, 2nd and 7 coming up, 3-yard run for Richie. But with two analysts, I would have to wrap it up a little quicker, and then Moose would come in and give his thoughts, but he cuts it short just in case Goose wants to come in, which he does every 4 or 5 plays. So it's definitely a different scenario than when you have a two-man booth. And Goose, you know, he raises the energy level.
It works great, man. It works great.
He's back in the end zone. You should see his setup. You know, your monitor's here. He has a monitor bigger than what the replay officials have. You know, when the referee's looking at the replay, he has, you know, 2 or 3 guys down there working with him, helping, feeding him information and feeding him.
Right.
You know, he has stat monitors, he has replay monitors. It's an unbelievable setup, but tremendous guys to work with.
That setup is fun. It's fun to watch a game. You make a boring game better. You know, even better. Not as good as a $2,500 bet, but better. We're going to take another break. Back with more of the great Marv Albert. Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. Kenny Albert's here talking about his life as a broadcaster and busting Tony Siragusa's chops. We just realized that he tries to work the word depends into the broadcast sometimes. And, you know, the Bengals could score. Of course, Tony, it depends.
well, Moose, what do you think? Well, it depends on the injury situation.
It depends.
Yeah.
Now, do you get a lot of people doing an impression of your father coming up to you? Like, that happen a lot?
I used to back in the early years, but now even the guys I work with, some of the production guys, they do the impersonation of me.
That's great. Yeah. That means you're going farther. Yeah.
I guess imitation is the...
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, it's great to hear.
Flattery.
It's not an exact, but it's great to hear your father's voice in you. It's great to hear that, you know.
And what's funny is when I'm just speaking in regular everyday life, my voice, people tell me it's different, and then when I go on the air, even on my voicemail... So it's funny to hear people do it. Is
an on-air voice a drastic change for you? Do you do something consciously to change, or do you don't even realize it?
I don't even realize.
Right.
I don't realize it's happening.
Yeah, because, I mean, you know, you sound basically the same, but it sounds more like polished.
Right,
you know?
right.
Well, yeah, you try to avoid the filler and you enunciate. I mean, just a natural, though.
Right.
Obviously, just a natural. When you said... you never felt the pressure, you never felt nervous, anything like that. It's obviously because you were so good at it from the get-go.
And I guess just growing up around it and doing it for so many years. How about your on-air and off-air voice? Believe
it or not, you know, I do my real on-air voice. I changed it for you because you're a pro. But my real on-air voice is a heavy, heavy Swedish accent.
I like that.
So what happens like? During this time, do you know every year that you're going to come back and work with those guys? I mean, is it a done deal? Is your contract set up such that you're always going to be?
You don't know for sure. We've
been Scott Boras?
we've been together for 7 years now, but usually around March you find out, and Fox has been great about keeping the crews together, and you develop a chemistry. So it's 7 years, hopefully going on.
That's great. Here's what you should do. We got to go, but here's what you should try to do. You should do man caves for the 1 year. I want to see you.
You know, my wife has been telling me for years, ever since Tony started, you have to get a man cave. You have to get Tony to build you a man cave.
I've known him since we were kids, and I held him up for that.
I heard.
It's a great thing. Kenny, thanks so much for coming in. If you ever want to come in at all, please do.
Anytime.
We got to use you got to use you for a comedy bit. It'll be great if you're willing to do it.
You got it.
$25 quick the easy way.
and some depends. We throw some depends into the deal.
The great Kenny Albert. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
And let's do them in the playoffs after this.
The Artie Lange Show, weeknights on Audience, only on DirecTV.